Part 1. The vast emptiness of space stretched out endlessly, a sea of darkness dotted with countless stars. In the middle of this infinite expanse floated a massive human warship, the Eclipse. It was a sleek vessel, its surface gleaming faintly under the light of a distant sun. The ship wasn't just a machine, it was a symbol of humanity's ambition and determination to explore the unknown. For years, humans had ventured farther into space, searching for new worlds, resources, and perhaps even allies among alien civilizations. But as they pushed deeper into uncharted territory, the fragile peace they had maintained began to crack. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, his sharp blue eyes scanning the monitors and displays around him. He was a tall man in his late 30s, with short brown hair and a calm demeanor that masked the constant tension he felt in his role. Ryan had spent most of his adult life serving aboard warships like this one, but something about today felt different. Maybe it was the quiet hum of the engines or the way the crew seemed unusually alert. Whatever it was, he couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was coming. Beside him sat Lieutenant Lisa Carter, her fingers dancing across the controls of her communication console. Lisa was a woman in her early 30s, with curly black hair, tied neatly behind her head. She was known for her sharp mind and quick reflexes, qualities that made her an invaluable part of the team. Her job was to monitor all incoming transmissions from nearby star systems, a task she took seriously. Right now, however, her expression was tense. "Anything unusual?" Ryan asked, breaking the silence. Lisa hesitated before answering. "Nothing concrete yet," she said, her voice steady but cautious. "But we've picked up some strange energy readings near the Andromeda outpost." Ryan frowned at the mention of the outpost. It was one of humanity's most important supply hubs, located deep in contested territory. Over the past few months, there had been rumors of increased activity in the region, rumors that suggested other species might be testing humanity's resolve. If the outpost was in danger, it could mean trouble not just for the people stationed there, but for humanity's entire presence in the area. "Strange energy readings?" Ryan pressed, leaning slightly forward. "What kind of readings?" "They're faint, almost like static," Lisa explained. "Could be natural phenomena, but..." She trailed off, leaving the thought unfinished. Both of them knew what she meant. Natural phenomena didn't usually send shivers down their spines. Ryan turned to Ensign Daniel Hayes, who sat at the navigation station. Daniel was the youngest, member of the senior crew, barely in his 20s, but he had already earned a reputation as one of the best tacticians in the fleet. His youthful face often belied the weight of responsibility he carried, but today his green eyes were focused and serious. "Plot us a course to those coordinates," Ryan instructed. "Let's see what's out there." Daniel nodded and began, inputting commands into his console. Within moments, the ship's engines roared to life, propelling the Eclipse toward the mysterious source of the energy readings. As the ship moved silently through the void, the crew prepared themselves for whatever lay ahead. None of them spoke much, each lost in their own thoughts. They had all heard stories of encounters with alien species, some peaceful, others hostile. No matter what awaited them, they knew they had to be ready. The journey didn't take long. When the Eclipse arrived at the designated location, the view outside the windows was chaotic and unsettling. Pieces of debris floated aimlessly in the darkness, remnants of destroyed ships and satellites. Some chunks were small, no bigger than a fist, while others were large enough to crush the Eclipse if they collided. Among the wreckage, Ryan noticed a damaged alien cruiser drifting slowly. Its design was unfamiliar, sleek and angular, with glowing blue veins running along its hull. It looked both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "What do you think happened here?" Lisa asked, breaking the silence. Ryan shook his head. "I don't know, but it doesn't look good. Scan for life signs." Lisa tapped a few buttons on her console. After a moment, she looked up. "There are survivors," she said. "At least 3 biosignatures inside the craft." Before Ryan could respond, the ship's alarms blared loudly, startling everyone on the bridge. A fleet of unknown vessels emerged from hyperspace surrounding the eclipse. Their shapes were jagged and menacing, clearly built for combat. Each ship bristled with weapons, and their hulls shimmered with an eerie metallic glow. "This is Commander Kale of the Vorthak fleet," a gravelly voice boomed over the comms. "You have entered restricted space. Surrender your vessel or face annihilation." Ryan clenched his jaw, his mind racing. The Vorthak were a species humanity had never officially encountered before, though rumors of their ruthlessness had spread throughout the galaxy. Now faced with their overwhelming numbers, Ryan knew they were in serious trouble. "We're not here to start a conflict," Ryan said calmly into the communicator. "We came to investigate reports of destruction near this area." Kale's response was cold and dismissive. "Your presence is the destruction. Leave now or we will eliminate you." Lisa leaned closer to Ryan, whispering urgently, "Their weapons are locked onto us. We don't stand a chance against that many ships." Ryan nodded grimly. He turned to Daniel. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Plot a route through their formation. We need to buy time until reinforcements arrive." As the crew scrambled to carry out his orders, Ryan couldn't help but feel a pang of fear. This wasn't just another mission, it was a test of humanity's place in the galaxy. If they failed here, it could mean the end of their expansion, and possibly their survival. But failure wasn't an option, not while he still had breath in his body. The minutes that followed were tense and nerve-wracking. The Vorthak ships closed in, their weapons charging ominously. On the bridge, the crew worked tirelessly, their movements precise and efficient, despite the chaos unfolding around them. Ryan watched as Daniel plotted a zigzagging path through the debris field, hoping to use the floating wreckage as cover. It was a risky plan, but it was the only one they had. As the eclipse darted between chunks of metal and ice, the first wave of enemy fire struck. Bright bursts of plasma illuminated the darkness, narrowly missing the ship. The impact rattled the crew, but they held their ground. Ryan barked orders, keeping everyone focused. "Shields holding at 70%. Lisa called out. "Keep moving," Ryan shouted. "We can't let them pin us down." Despite the odds, the eclipse managed to slip past the initial barrage, but the Vorthak weren't giving up. More ships appeared, cutting off their escape routes. Ryan realized they needed a new plan, and fast. His eyes fell on the damaged alien cruiser again. There had to be something useful inside it, something that could turn the tide of this battle. "Lisa, get me a team ready to board that ship," Ryan ordered. "Maybe we can find something, weapons, intel, anything." Lisa hesitated. "That's risky. What if it's a trap?" "It's our only shot," Ryan said firmly. "I'll lead the team myself." Against protests from the crew, Ryan assembled a small group, including Chief Engineer Aaron Blake and Medic Samantha Reed. Together they boarded a shuttle and made their way toward the alien cruiser. As they approached, the ship loomed larger, its glowing vanes casting an otherworldly light. Ryan felt a mix of awe and apprehension as they docked and stepped inside. The interior of the cruiser was eerily silent, the air thick with the smell of burnt metal. The walls pulsed faintly with light, creating an unsettling atmosphere. Ryan led the way, his weapon drawn, while Aaron and Samantha followed closely behind. Every step echoed loudly in the empty corridors, heightening the sense of unease. They reached the control room without encountering any resistance. Aaron immediately set to work accessing the ship's database, his fingers flying over the alien interface. After several tense minutes, he let out a triumphant shout. "Got it. These guys are called the Zyren. They've been fighting the Vorthak for centuries. There's a weapon system here, some kind of EMP pulse capable of disabling entire fleets." Samantha frowned. "Activating it might draw the Vorthak straight to us." Ryan didn't hesitate. "Do it anyway, it's our best chance." Aaron nodded and began entering commands. Outside, the battle raged on, but inside the alien cruiser, hope flickered to life. Ryan knew this was their moment to strike back, to prove that humanity wouldn't go down without a fight. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The control room of the alien cruiser was dimly lit, the faint glow from the walls casting eerie shadows across the faces of Ryan and his team. Chief Engineer Aaron Blake worked furiously at the console, his fingers moving quickly over the unfamiliar controls. The alien interface was unlike anything he had ever seen, but Aaron's years of experience with technology gave him an edge. He had always been the kind of person who could figure things out, even when the odds were stacked against him. Medic Samantha Reed stood nearby, her medical kit slung over her shoulder. She kept glancing nervously at the door, half expecting enemy soldiers to burst in at any moment. Samantha wasn't a fighter. She was a healer, someone who patched up wounds and saved lives. But she had volunteered for this mission because she believed in Captain Ryan Mitchell. If he thought they could pull this off, she trusted him enough to follow him into danger. Ryan, meanwhile, paced back and forth, his hand resting on the grip of his weapon. His mind raced as he tried to anticipate what might happen next. Activating. The EMP pulse was their best chance to disable the Vorthak fleet, but it was also a gamble. If it didn't work, or worse, if it drew more enemies, they would be trapped inside the alien ship with no way out. Still, Ryan knew they couldn't afford to hesitate. Every second they wasted gave the Vorthak more time to destroy the Eclipse. Almost. There, Aaron muttered, his voice tense but focused. Just need to bypass one last security protocol. Samantha stepped closer to him. How much longer? She asked, trying to keep the worry out of her voice. A minute, maybe 2, Aaron replied without looking up. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but he didn't stop working. The console emitted a series of soft beeps, each one signaling progress. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Aaron leaned back with a sigh of relief. Got it. The EMP is ready to fire. Ryan nodded. Do it. Aaron pressed a final button and the entire ship shuddered. A low hum filled the air, growing louder and louder until it seemed to vibrate through their bones. Then, with a sudden flash of light, the pulse erupted outward, invisible but powerful. Outside, the effect was immediate. The Vorthak ships that had been surrounding the Eclipse suddenly went dark, their weapon systems failing and their engines sputtering to a halt. On the bridge of the Eclipse, the crew erupted into cheers. Lieutenant Lisa Carter let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The EMP worked, she exclaimed. Their ships are disabled. Ensign Daniel Hayes grinned, his hands still hovering over the navigation controls. Looks like we're not dead yet. Captain Ryan Mitchell watched the scene unfold on the monitors, his expression unreadable. The Vorthak fleet was immobilized, but he knew better than to celebrate too soon. Alien species weren't known for giving up easily, especially ones as aggressive as the Vorthak. He turned to Lisa. Any sign of movement from them? Lisa shook her head. Nothing. Their ships are completely offline. Ryan frowned. Something about the situation didn't sit right with him. The Vorthak had outnumbered them, and their technology was advanced. Why would they retreat so easily? It didn't make sense. Still, he couldn't deny the fact that they had won for now. Keep monitoring their status, he said, and prepare the shuttle for extraction. We need to get Aaron and Samantha back on board. As the order was relayed to the boarding team, Ryan allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. They had done the impossible, turned the tide of a battle against overwhelming odds. But deep down, he knew this victory came at a cost. The EMP pulse had drained the alien cruiser's power reserves, leaving it a sitting duck. And the Vorthak wouldn't forget what humanity had done here today. Back inside the alien cruiser, Aaron and Samantha were already making their way back to the docking bay. The ship was eerily quiet now, its glowing vanes dimmed almost to darkness. Without the hum of energy coursing through its systems, it felt like a ghost ship, abandoned and lifeless. That was close, Samantha said, breaking the silence. Her voice echoed slightly in the empty corridor. Do you think it'll hold them off long enough for us to escape? It should, Aaron replied, though he sounded less confident than he wanted to. The EMP fried their systems pretty thoroughly. Even if they manage to reboot, it'll take time. Samantha nodded, but her eyes darted nervously toward the shadows. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Maybe it was just her imagination, Or maybe it was the oppressive atmosphere of the alien ship. Either way, she didn't like it. They reached the docking bay without incident where the shuttle awaited them. As they climbed aboard, Aaron glanced back at the alien cruiser one last time. Despite its ominous appearance, the ship had saved their lives and possibly the lives of everyone on the Eclipse. "We should have taken more time to study it," he said wistfully. "There's so much tech in there we don't understand." "We can come back later," Ryan said as he joined them. "Right now we need to focus on getting out of here." The shuttle detached from the alien cruiser and sped back toward the Eclipse. As they approached, the massive warship loomed larger, its battered hull a testament to the battle they had just fought. The crew cheered as the shuttle docked, and Ryan led his team back onto the bridge. "Well done," Lisa said, smiling at Aaron and Samantha. "You two just saved the day." Aaron shrugged modestly. "It wasn't me. The Zirin built the EMP. All I did was press a few buttons." "Still counts," Ryan said firmly. "Good work, everyone." But before anyone could relax, the ship's sensors picked up something new. A single Vorthak vessel remained operational, lurking at the edge of the battlefield. Its weapons were powered down, but it hadn't fled with the rest of the fleet. Instead, it hung there silently watching. "What's it doing?" Daniel asked, his brow furrowed. Ryan studied the monitor intently. "Waiting," he said grimly. "Probably calling for reinforcements." Lisa looked alarmed. "Should we finish it off while we have the chance?" Ryan hesitated. Attacking an already weakened enemy might seem like the logical choice, but he knew it could escalate the conflict further. Humanity was still relatively new to galactic politics, and starting a full-scale war with the Vorthak wouldn't end well. "No," he decided. "Let it go, for now." The crew exchanged uneasy glances but didn't argue. They trusted Ryan's judgment, even if it meant letting the enemy slip away. For the moment, they had survived, and that was enough. As the Eclipse limped away from the battlefield, repairs underway, the mood on the ship shifted. The initial euphoria of victory faded, replaced by a sobering awareness of what lay ahead. The Vorthak weren't going to forget this humiliation, and sooner or later, they would retaliate. Humanity's expansion into space had brought them face to face, with countless challenges, but this felt different. This wasn't just about territory or resources, it was about survival. Ryan stood on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Behind him, Lisa joined him quietly. "You think they'll come back?" she asked. "I know they will," Ryan replied without turning around. "This isn't over, not by a long shot." Lisa sighed. "What do we do until then?" "We prepare," Ryan said simply. "We fortify our defenses, build alliances, and make sure every member of this crew knows how to fight. Because next time we might not get lucky." Lisa nodded, understanding the weight of his words. Space was vast and unpredictable, full of wonders and dangers alike. Humanity had taken its first steps into the cosmos, but it was clear now that the journey wouldn't be easy. Every victory came with a price, and every decision carried consequences. For now, though, they were safe. The Eclipse drifted silently through the void, its crew weary but alive. Outside the windows, the stars twinkled innocently, oblivious to the struggles of those who sought to explore them. Ryan allowed himself a small smile. They had faced the unknown and emerged victorious. That was something worth holding on to. But as the ship disappeared into the depths of space, the shadow of the Vorthak lingered, a reminder that peace was fragile and fleeting. Part 3. The Eclipse moved silently through the void, its engines humming softly as it carried the crew farther from the battlefield. Repairs were underway, and though the ship had taken heavy damage during the fight with the Vorthak, it was still operational. The mood on board was a mix of relief and unease. They had survived an encounter with one of the galaxy's most feared species, but no one believed it was truly over. The Vorthak weren't the kind to forgive or forget, and Captain Ryan Mitchell knew they would be back, with a vengeance. Ryan stood in the command center, staring at the holographic display of their current position. The map showed the path they had taken to escape the Vorthak fleet, marked by glowing red lines that snaked across the star chart. Nearby, Lieutenant Lisa Carter worked quietly at her station, monitoring communications for any signs of pursuit. So far, there had been nothing. No transmissions, no ships appearing out of hyperspace. But the silence felt heavier than usual, like the calm before a storm. "Anything yet?" Ryan asked, breaking the quiet. Lisa shook her head. "No, it's too quiet." "That's what worries me," Ryan said under his breath. He turned to Ensign Daniel Hayes, who was seated at the navigation console. "How long until we reach the nearest safe zone?" "At current speed, about 12 hours, Daniel replied. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his nervousness. Despite his young age, Daniel had proven himself capable under pressure, but even he couldn't ignore the tension hanging in the air. "We'll need to stop for more repairs once we get there." Ryan nodded. 12 hours wasn't ideal, but it was manageable, if they didn't run into any trouble along the way. He glanced at Chief Engineer Aaron Blake, who stood nearby reviewing damage reports. Aaron looked exhausted, dark circles forming under his eyes, but he gave Ryan a reassuring nod. "We'll hold together until then," Aaron said. "Just don't ask us to go into another firefight anytime soon." Ryan managed a faint smile. "I'll do my best." In the medical bay, medic Samantha Reed tended to the wounded. The battle against the Vorthak had left its mark, not just on the ship but on the crew. Burns, fractures, and cuts lined up on the beds, each injury telling a story of survival. Samantha worked methodically, stitching wounds and applying bandages, with practiced hands. She tried not to think about how close they had come to disaster. Instead, she focused on her patients, offering words of encouragement whenever she could. "You're going to be fine," she told one crewman, a young man named Kevin whose arm had been fractured during an explosion. "Just take it easy for a while." Kevin winced but forced a smile. "Thanks, Doc. I guess I owe you one." Samantha patted his shoulder gently. "You can pay me back by staying alive, okay?" As she moved to the next patient, Samantha allowed herself a moment to breathe. The adrenaline from earlier had worn off, leaving her drained. Still, she reminded herself that they were lucky. Many of the injuries were minor and no one had died. That was something to be grateful for, but gratitude didn't erase the fear gnawing at her. The Vorthak had been relentless, and their sheer numbers had overwhelmed the Eclipse. If it hadn't been for the EMP pulse from the alien cruiser, they might not have made it out alive. Samantha shuddered at the thought. She wasn't a soldier. She had joined the crew because she wanted to help people. Yet here she was, light years away from Earth, patching up wounds caused by an alien war. Back on the bridge, Ryan gathered his senior officers for a briefing. The group included Lisa, Daniel, Aaron, and Samantha, along with a few others who had played key roles in the battle. They all looked tired, their faces pale from lack of sleep, but they listened intently as Ryan spoke. "We got lucky today," Ryan began, his tone serious. "The EMP pulse gave us the edge we needed, but we can't rely on luck forever. The Vorthak won't stop coming after us. We need to prepare for what's ahead." "What are our options?" Lisa asked. "Do we retreat to Alliance space and regroup?" Ryan shook his head. "Retreating isn't an option. If we pull back now, the Vorthak will see it as weakness. They'll push harder, faster. No, we need to stay on the offensive, but smartly. We find allies, gather intelligence, and make sure we're ready when they come for us again." Aaron raised a hand. "What about the alien cruiser? The Zyran tech could give us an advantage if we study it properly." "We don't have time for that," Ryan said. "Even if we went back, the Vorthak probably already scavenged whatever was left. Besides, we can't risk leading them straight to our base." Samantha chimed in hesitantly. "What about the Andromeda outpost? Shouldn't we warn them? If the Vorthak decide to strike there next?" "She's right," Lisa agreed. "If the outpost falls, it'll cut off our supply lines in this sector. We can't let that happen." Ryan nodded. "We'll send a secure transmission to the outpost as soon as we're within range. Let them know what happened and advise them to fortify their defenses." The meeting ended with everyone heading back to their stations, each carrying a renewed sense of purpose. For the first time since the battle, the crew felt a glimmer of hope. They had faced the unknown and lived to tell the tale. Now it was up to them to ensure they didn't lose everything they had fought so hard to protect. Hours passed, and the Eclipse continued its journey toward the safe zone. The repairs progressed steadily, thanks to Aaron and his team's tireless efforts. Morale improved slightly as word spread that the ship would soon reach a secure location where they could rest and recover. Even so, the shadow of the Vorthak lingered in everyone's minds. Late into the night, Ryan found himself alone on the observation deck. The stars outside stretched endlessly, their light soft and distant. He leaned against the railing, lost in thought. Humanity's expansion into space had always been a gamble, a leap into the unknown filled with both promise and peril. Today, they had stared into the abyss and seen the face of an enemy that wouldn't hesitate to destroy them. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Mind if I join you?" Ryan turned to see Lisa standing behind him. She held 2 cups of coffee, offering one to him. He accepted it with a grateful nod. "Thanks." Lisa took a sip from her cup before speaking. "You've been quiet since the meeting. Everything okay?" Ryan sighed. "Just thinking about what's next. We got lucky this time, but the Vorthak aren't going to give up. This is only the beginning." "I know," Lisa said softly. "But we've got a good crew. Smart, brave, and willing to do whatever it takes. We'll figure it out." Ryan smiled faintly. "Yeah, we will." For a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply stood side by side, watching the stars drift past. The vastness of space was humbling, a reminder of how small humanity truly was in the grand scheme of things. Yet despite the odds, they had carved out a place for themselves among the stars, and they weren't about to let anyone take that away from them. By the time the Eclipse reached the safe zone, the crew was ready to collapse from exhaustion. The designated area was a remote asteroid field, hidden from prying eyes and equipped with automated repair drones. As the ship settled into position, the drones swarmed around it, assessing the damage and beginning the lengthy process of restoration. Inside the ship, the atmosphere shifted from tension to cautious optimism. Crew members laughed and joked as they shared stories of the battle, their camaraderie stronger than ever. In the mess hall, Aaron sat with Samantha and Daniel, discussing theories about the Zyran and their mysterious technology. "If we could replicate that EMP pulse, we'd have a real weapon against the Vorthak," Aaron said excitedly. "Imagine disabling entire fleets with a single shot." Daniel grinned. "Yeah, but imagine if they figured out how to counter it. We'd be in even bigger trouble." Samantha rolled her eyes playfully. "Leave it to you two to turn a near-death experience into a science project." Their laughter echoed through the room, a welcome sound after days of stress and uncertainty. For now, they were safe. The repairs would take time, but they had earned a brief reprieve, a chance to catch their breath before the next challenge came knocking. Unbeknownst to the crew, however, danger lurked closer than they realized. Hidden among the asteroids, a lone Vorthak scout ship watched silently, its sensors trained on the Eclipse. The vessel had followed them from the battlefield, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Its commander, a ruthless officer named Kyle, knew better than to underestimate humanity. They had proven themselves cunning and resourceful, qualities that made them dangerous adversaries. Kyle bared his teeth in a predatory grin. "They think they're safe," he growled to his second-in-command. "Let them rest. When the time comes, we'll crush them." Far above the asteroid field, the stars twinkled innocently, oblivious to the storm brewing below. The repairs on the Eclipse were progressing smoothly, and for the first time in days, the crew allowed themselves a moment to relax. The asteroid field provided a safe haven, shielding them from prying eyes while automated drones worked tirelessly to patch up the ship's battered hull. Inside, the mood was lighter. Laughter echoed through the corridors, and meals in the mess hall became opportunities for storytelling. Everyone had their own version of the battle against the Vorthak, each tale growing more dramatic with every retelling. Captain Ryan Mitchell walked among his crew, listening to their stories and offering words of encouragement. He knew they needed this, a chance to unwind after facing such overwhelming odds. But even as he smiled and joked with them, his mind remained sharp, focused on what lay ahead. The Vorthak weren't done with them yet, and Ryan couldn't afford to let his guard down. On the bridge, Lieutenant Lisa Carter monitored communications, her eyes scanning the screens for any sign of trouble. So far, everything was quiet. Too quiet. She glanced at Ensign Daniel Hayes, who sat nearby studying star charts. "Still nothing?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "No transmissions, no ships. It's like they vanished." Lisa frowned. "That doesn't make sense. They wouldn't just give up." "You're right," Ryan said, stepping onto the bridge. His voice was calm but carried an edge of authority that commanded attention. "They're out there waiting, watching." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They trusted Ryan's instincts, but the thought of being hunted sent shivers down their spines. Humanity's expansion into space had brought them face to face with countless challenges, but this felt different. This wasn't just about territory or resources. It was personal now. The Vorthak saw humanity as a threat, and threats needed to be eliminated. Late that night, Ryan found himself alone in the observation deck once again. The stars outside stretched endlessly, their light soft and distant. He leaned against the railing, staring out at the void. Despite the calm around him, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It was as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. A sudden alarm shattered the silence. Red lights flashed across the bridge, and the intercom blared urgently. "Captain, to the bridge, we've got incoming." Ryan sprinted toward the command center, his heart pounding. When he arrived, the crew was already scrambling to respond. On the main monitor, a fleet of Vorthak ships emerged from hyperspace surrounding the asteroid field. Their jagged hulls glinted menacingly in the dim light, and their weapon systems hummed with energy. "This is Commander Kale," a gravelly voice growled over the comms. "You cannot hide forever, humans. Surrender now and we may spare your lives." Ryan clenched his jaw. "Not happening," he muttered under his breath. Turning to Lisa, he ordered, "Open a channel." When the connection was established, Ryan stepped forward. "This is Captain Ryan Mitchell of the human warship Eclipse. You attacked us without provocation. If you want a fight, you'll get one." Kale's response was cold and mocking. "Brave words for someone so outnumbered. Your EMP trick won't save you this time." Ryan ignored the taunt. He turned to Daniel. "Plot an escape route through the asteroids. Use their size to block their line of sight." Daniel nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. "Got it, but we'll need to move fast." "Do it," Ryan said firmly. "Lisa, keep monitoring their movements. Aaron, prepare the engines for maximum thrust." The crew sprang into action, each member knowing exactly what to do. The Eclipse roared to life, its engines pushing it deeper into the asteroid field. The Vorthak ships followed, firing blindly as chunks of rock exploded around them. The debris created chaos, making it difficult for the enemy to target the smaller, more agile human vessel. Inside the ship, tension mounted. Explosions rocked the hull and alarms blared constantly. Chief Engineer Aaron Blake shouted orders to his team, ensuring the engines stayed online despite the strain. "Hold together," he yelled. "We're almost clear." Medic Samantha Reed moved quickly through the corridors, tending to injured crew members caught in the crossfire. Her hands trembled slightly, but her focus never wavered. "Stay with me," she whispered to one man clutching his side. "You're going to be okay." As the Eclipse navigated the treacherous asteroid field, Ryan noticed something unusual on the monitors. One of the larger asteroids had a faint glow emanating from its surface. At first glance, it looked natural, but something about it didn't sit right with him. "Zoom in on that asteroid," he instructed. Lisa adjusted the sensors, revealing a hidden structure embedded within the rock. It was a Xeran outpost, abandoned but still functional. "Looks like we've got ourselves a backup plan," Ryan said with a grim smile. "What are you thinking?" Lisa asked. "We use it as a trap," Ryan replied. "Lure the Vorthak in close, then activate whatever defenses they left behind. It's risky, but it might buy us enough time to slip away." The bar crew hesitated, unsure if the plan would work, but they trusted Ryan, and when he gave the order, they acted without question. The Eclipse veered sharply, heading straight for the glowing asteroid. The Vorthak ships pursued, eager to finish the job. Once inside the outpost's range, Ryan signaled for Aaron to hack into its systems. The process was slow and painstaking, but eventually the ancient machinery roared to life. Plasma turrets emerged from the asteroid's surface, targeting the Vorthak fleet with deadly precision. Bright flashes of light illuminated the darkness. As the turrets fired, disabling several enemy ships, Commander Kale's voice crackled over the comms, filled with rage. "What sorcery is this? You dare interfere?" Ryan stepped forward, addressing the Vorthak leader directly. "This isn't sorcery. This is survival. If you want to keep fighting, fine, but know that humanity won't back down. And neither will our allies." To everyone's surprise, Kale didn't retaliate further. Instead, the remaining Vorthak ships retreated into hyperspace, leaving the battlefield eerily silent. The crew erupted into cheers, but Ryan remained cautious. "Don't celebrate yet," he warned. "They'll be back. This isn't over." With the immediate threat neutralized, the Eclipse limped away from the asteroid field, heading toward safer territory. Repairs resumed, and the crew worked tirelessly to ensure the ship was ready for whatever came next. Morale remained high, bolstered by their narrow escape and the knowledge that they had stood their ground against a superior foe. In the observation deck, Ryan gathered his senior officers for a final debrief. "Today proved something important," he said, his voice steady and resolute. "Humanity isn't just a newcomer in this galaxy. We're resilient. We adapt, and we fight, not because we want to, but because we have to. If we want to survive, we need to keep pushing forward." Lisa nodded. "And we'll do it together." Aaron grinned. "Just promise me we won't run into any more alien superweapons anytime soon." The group laughed, the sound easing some of the tension that had built up over the past few days. For now, they were safe. The repairs would take time, but they had earned a brief reprieve, a chance to catch their breath before the next challenge came knocking. Far above the asteroid field, the stars twinkled innocently, oblivious to the struggles of those who sought to explore them. The universe was vast and unpredictable, full of wonders and dangers alike. Humanity had taken its first steps into the cosmos, but it was clear now that the journey wouldn't be easy. Every victory came with a price, and every decision carried consequences. But as the Eclipse disappeared into the depths of space, hope flickered to life among its crew. They had faced the unknown and emerged victorious. That was something worth holding on to. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together with courage, determination, and the unshakable belief that humanity belonged among the stars. The Eclipse drifted silently through space, its engines running at minimal power to conserve energy. The repairs from the battle with the Vorthak were still ongoing, though progress was slow. Chief Engineer Aaron Blake and his team worked tirelessly. In the engine room, their faces streaked with grease and sweat as they patched up one system after another. Despite the damage, the ship was holding together. For now. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge, staring at the monitors that displayed their current position. They had put considerable distance between themselves and the asteroid field where the Vorthak ambush had taken place. But Ryan knew better than to assume they were safe. The Vorthak were relentless, and Kale's retreat had been too sudden to feel like a true victory. Something about it gnawed at him, a nagging suspicion that the enemy wasn't done yet. Lieutenant Lisa Carter sat nearby, her fingers gliding over the communication console. She was scanning for any signs of activity, from the Vorthak or anyone else, but so far the comms channels remained eerily silent. "Still nothing," she said softly, breaking the quiet of the bridge. Ryan nodded, his expression unreadable. "That's what worries me. Silence isn't always a good thing." Lisa glanced at him, her brow furrowed. "You think they're planning something bigger?" "I don't know," Ryan admitted. "But I'd bet my life they haven't given up. We need to stay ready." Ensign Daniel Hayes, seated at the navigation station, looked up from his screen. His green eyes were sharp, even though fatigue lined his face. "What's our next move, Captain? We can't just keep running forever." Ryan turned to face him, his voice steady but firm. "We find allies. Humanity can't fight this war alone. If the Vorthak are willing to attack us without warning, we need friends who can help us push back." Daniel nodded slowly. "Makes sense. But who do we trust out here? Most of the species we've encountered either ignore us or see us as a threat." "That's why we start small," Ryan said. He pointed to a star chart displayed on the main monitor. "There's a trading outpost not far from here. Neutral ground frequented by multiple species. It's a long shot, but maybe someone there knows something, anything that can give us an edge." Lisa leaned forward, studying the chart. "Do you really think they'll talk to us? Humans aren't exactly popular in these parts." "They will if we make it worth their while," Ryan replied. "Everyone has a price, we just need to figure out what theirs is." The journey to the trading outpost took longer than expected, thanks to the lingering damage to the eclipse. Repairs continued around the clock, and the crew worked in shifts to ensure the ship stayed operational. Morale was low. Many of the crew members were exhausted, both physically and mentally. After narrowly escaping death twice in recent days, the weight of their situation was beginning to sink in. Medic Samantha Reed spent most of her time tending to the injured and checking on the mental health of the crew. She moved quietly through the corridors, offering kind words and reassurance whenever she could. Though she wasn't trained for psychological counseling, her presence alone seemed to comfort people. "How are you holding up?" she asked Kevin, the young crewman whose arm had been fractured during the last battle. Kevin shrugged, trying to smile. "I've been worse, Doc. Just tired, you know?" Samantha nodded sympathetically. "It's okay to feel that way. We've all been through a lot. But we're still standing, and that counts for something." Kevin gave her a grateful look before turning back to his work. Samantha sighed softly as she walked away. She wished she could do more, but sometimes just being there was enough. When the eclipse finally arrived at the trading outpost, the sight was both overwhelming and intimidating. The outpost was a sprawling structure built into the side of a massive asteroid, its surface covered in docking ports, antennas, and glowing neon signs advertising goods and services in dozens of alien languages. Ships of all shapes and sizes floated nearby, ranging from sleek private vessels to bulky freighters. The air buzzed with activity, and the chatter of countless species filled the comms channels. "This place is insane," Daniel muttered as he guided the ship toward an open docking bay. "Stay sharp," Ryan warned. "Not everyone here is friendly." Once docked, Ryan assembled a small team to accompany him onto the outpost. Along with Lisa and Daniel, he chose Aaron for his technical expertise and Samantha in case of emergencies. Armed with translators and a list of potential contacts, they stepped off the shuttle and entered the bustling hub. The interior of the outpost was a chaotic mix of sights, sounds, and smells. Alien merchants hawked their wares from stalls lining narrow corridors while others bartered loudly over prices. Creatures of every imaginable shape and size wandered past, some humanoid, others completely alien. The air smelled faintly of spices and machinery, a strange but not unpleasant combination. Ryan led the group toward a central plaza, where information brokers and traders often congregated. As they approached, a tall reptilian creature with shimmering scales intercepted them. Its forked tongue flicked in and out as it studied the humans with cold, calculating eyes. "You're new here," the creature hissed, its voice raspy and guttural. "What do you want?" "We're looking for information," Ryan said cautiously. "About the Vorthak." The creature tilted its head, intrigued. "Dangerous knowledge to seek. Why should I help you?" Ryan hesitated, then pulled out a small pouch containing rare minerals mined from Earth's moon. "This is a down payment. If your information is useful, there's more where that came from." The creature's eyes gleamed with interest. It snatched the pouch and examined its contents before nodding. "Very well. Ask your questions." Ryan exchanged a glance with Lisa, who activated her translator device. "Tell us everything you know about the Vorthak fleet, their movements, Their weaknesses, anything. The creature smirked, revealing rows of sharp teeth. The Vorthak are gathering forces near the Delta Quadrant. A large fleet preparing for something big. What that is, I cannot say. Lisa frowned. Why would they mass their ships there? There's nothing of value in that region. The creature shrugged. Perhaps they seek to cut off trade routes, or perhaps they have another target in mind. Either way, you would be wise to avoid them. Ryan thanked the creature and handed over another pouch of minerals before stepping away with his team. Delta Quadrant, he murmured thoughtfully. If they're planning something, it's likely aimed at humanity. We need to warn Command. As they made their way back to the Eclipse, the group couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Eyes followed them from shadowy corners and whispers echoed faintly behind them. Whatever secrets the trading outpost held, they weren't meant for outsiders. Back aboard the ship, Ryan called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. He shared the information they had gathered and outlined their options. We can try to intercept the Vorthak fleet, he said, but we're not equipped for a direct confrontation. Our best bet is to send a warning to Alliance Command and fortify our defenses. Aaron raised a hand. What if we retrofit some of the siren tech we salvaged earlier? Maybe we can boost our weapon systems or shields. It's risky, Lisa interjected. We barely understand how that technology works. If we mess it up, we could end up crippling ourselves instead of helping. Ryan nodded. We'll proceed carefully. In the meantime, set a course for the nearest human colony. We'll deliver the intel personally and regroup. The decision was met with nods of agreement. Everyone understood the stakes. The Vorthak weren't just testing humanity. They were declaring war. And humanity needed to be ready. As the Eclipse left the trading outpost behind, the crew prepared for the long journey ahead. Repairs continued, and morale slowly improved as the reality of their mission sank in. They had faced impossible odds and survived. Now they were fighting not just for themselves but for the future of their species. In the observation deck, Ryan stood alone once again, gazing out at the stars. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before him, a reminder of how much there was to explore and how much stood in their way. But despite the challenges, he felt a spark of hope. Humanity had come this far because of its resilience, its determination to adapt and overcome. Whatever happens next, he whispered to himself, we'll face it together. Outside the windows, the stars twinkled innocently, oblivious to the struggles of those who sought to claim their light.